Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
And I apologize, I'm always so weird with the way I say good evening. It's because I'm listening out to see if the actual audio is coming through properly. Anyway, folks, welcome back to another Firestorm Studio stream. My name's Pat, and we are going to be continuing with our A to Z of creatures inside of Zbrush. And obviously, we're working on Godzilla. Or we're still working on Godzilla. He's went through a few changes since the last time. So I have decided to switch it up to make him more of a bust shape rather than a full creature, just so that we can get through it a little bit quicker, maybe focus on doing cool things like sculpting scales and talking about the way that we might actually approach that. So, Paul, excuse me while I adjust my chair. All right, folks. So, yes, it's great to have you all here. I do hope your week has started off well and that your weekend was either very, very lazy or a hell of a lot of fun. Either way, it's all good here. So, as per usual, folks, please fire your hellos, your questions, and all sorts into the chat. It is evening and we are sculpting again. Thank you very much, Dennis. Thank you. Yes, it is evening and we are sculpting again. But yes, please, if you have any questions, queries about Firestorm Studios or anything that we're doing here on the stream this evening, please reach out in the chat and ask any questions. And even though we are working on Godzilla, this is really just to give us a topic. If there is any kind of queries or questions directly around ZBrush or sculpting or the industry, again, into the chat with it, folks. We don't bite here. We're really nice and we will answer the questions as best we can. All right. With that in mind, let's get stuck back into this. So I thought that we would begin with a little bit of a warm-up. I'm going to work on the scales, the spikes along his back. You can see that the version that we have here is pretty basic. It's a bit scabby looking. So we're going to start again with these, and I'm going to do that by appending in a polysphere. And then we're going to go down to initialize. In fact, do you know what? Let's not bother with the initialize this time. Let's go straight into Dynamesh. And we're going to lower the resolution for this. So let me just make sure I have my symmetry on. And we'll lower the resolution and hit Dynamesh. And we'll maybe just keep going. There we go. So we get a nice low-res Dynamesh cube. And then I'm going to do a mirror and weld just to make sure that the geometry is kind of lined up on each side. Now with Dynamesh, every time you re-Dynamesh a model, it's going to change it. So it's going to be asymmetrical by nature, something I do, but you don't have to do, this is just something I got used to, is I mirror and weld my Dynamesh just to make sure I know it's clean and I know it's symmetrical. So I've got some reference off to my side here on my other monitor. So I'm going to start by scaling down our sphere in one axis, and then I'm just going to take my move brush with AccuCurve on, and I'm going to start pulling up and out some of the shapes. Smooth it as I go, and just kind of break it up a little bit. The great thing about doing something like the scales or the spikes on something like a Godzilla kind of creature, like a kaiju, is that there's a lot of artistic license that you can throw into it. Okay, I'm sure somebody could go and see whether or not I've made an exact copy of his scales or not, but it's not the end of the world if I don't match it 100%. Not for one of our live streams. If you are in an industry setting, obviously yes, there's going to be an element there where it has to be done to the letter. So all I'm doing now is I'm using Sculptress Pro mode to dynamically increase my resolution so that as I sculpt some of these layer lines, So what I'm doing here is I'm just using a really rough brush and just kind of trying to create that layered effect as I build up the object, and then we can smooth that back. There we go. And then I can go in, and now that I've got that Sculptris Pro mode in there, I've added enough geometry that I can turn it off, and I can now start to refine it a little bit further. So I'm actually going to use the masking brush here and just mask out an area that I want to keep. And I am aware that there is masking tools in ZBrush that allow you to kind of fill the hole really quickly, but I just prefer masking the old-fashioned way. So now that I've got that, I'm going to go into the deformation tab here, or the deformation rollout, scroll down, and we're just going to pop that unmasked area up a little bit using the inflate brush, or the inflate slider. And then I can maybe do a polish by features. There we go. And then just smooth off the edges. And again, it's just a case of kind of building up the shape a little bit. And we're not going to take any of this to final. That's not the goal here. It does not need to be perfect. Why make your art perfect when you are perfect? All right. Let's start to add a little bit more variation in here. But yeah, do let me know, folks, how your weekend was, how your week has started, if it's gone well, if it's gone poorly, and if you're just wanting Monday to be over. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is, this is looking a little bit too round for me, so I'm going to start to square this off and just start to manually taper it down. But I do want to leave a little bit of extra at the bottom, just to give me a little bit of extra flexibility if I want to reuse this scale for something else, which I do. I'm not going to make each of these manually. I'm going to use ZBrush to duplicate and adjust these as we go. So that'll do fine. And let's see, so this one looks like it's going to go in about here. And the cool thing is that he has two different styles of spikes on his back. He's got these more what I would consider ornate ones. They kind of look more like crowns and things like this. Okay, I'm taking too much liberty with the design of that one. So we're going to bring this down a little bit. There we go. And this is one of the things I would say is important whenever you're just starting out sculpting for the day, or if you're just new to sculpting in general, is do warm-ups. Do warm-up projects before you get into your main job for the day, just to kind of get your eye in and also help warm up your hand. Okay, it's the same as when you're drawing or painting or sculpting, anything creative. You want to warm up your hand so that it's as flexible as possible, okay? I think we've all been there where we're like, oh, I just can't seem to get something working the way I want it to. Chances are it's because you haven't warmed up when it comes to your art. Sounds really silly, I know. It does sound really daft. And anyone who doesn't really do, if there's someone who might not be kind of as artistically minded, might think it's nonsense, but it's not. It is actually a useful thing to do. But the reason I like to do a warm-up as well, particularly on something like a stream, is that it allows me to procrastinate and give me some time to think about what I'm going to do next. Okay, so let's use the gizmo here. There we go. Right, so now I'm going to hold down Control, click and drag, and then that's going to give me a duplicate of the spike or the scale that I've just made. And then I can go in and start to reshape that. So for example, this extra spike here, I might want to just get rid of some of this. And you can do this a couple of ways. So if you are wanting to remove parts of your mesh, the most direct way to do this is to use something like the Select Lasso tool and simply drag a selection around it. Now it'll go green by default, but if you hold down the Alt key, it'll go red. When you release the left mouse button, oh, I don't know what's happened there, we'll fix that in a second. What will happen is it's going to hide that part of the mesh. And at that stage, you can simply go up to Delete Hidden, and it will get rid of the element that you've hid. Oh, that's weird. I wonder how that happened. How odd. Okay. So I'm going to do an auto groups on that. I'm actually going to go in and turn off Dynamesh so I don't accidentally remesh all my models. So I'm going to take my mask lasso and let's try this again. Okay, working now. So as I said, we want to change up what we've done here. So I'm going to hold down Control and Alt, drag a selection around the area that I want to get rid of, hit Delete Hidden, and then hit a Close Holes. And now I can just use the sculpting brushes to bring that down to the shape that I need. And another option is to use Sculptors Pro. So if we hold down Shift, my apologies, sorry. If we hold down Shift and click on the Activate Sculptors Pro mode, when we're in our smooth brush, if I increase the size of my brush here, and then I just start to tap away at the mesh, because of the way that Sculptors Pro dynamically adjusts your tessellation on your model, it will eventually get rid of it. So that gives us a nice blank canvas that we can work on. So I'll turn that back off, grab the move brush, make sure AccuCurve is on, and then start bringing that up like so. And now I have my second spike. And I can now we're just going to do a little bit of adjustment here. There we go. So I'm going to get rid of these. This is just going to get deleted. Goodbye. Gone. We're going to be brave and we're just going to delete things. Don't worry about it, folks. Okay, how's that looking? That looks all right to me. On this one here, I'll maybe just spread it out a little bit more, reshape it slightly. There we go. Now, I'm just going to have a quick look in my reference. I cannot remember if I've got anything that shows what his back looks like with when the spikes are actually coming out of it. Because on some creatures you're going to have a little bit of a ridge that goes around where the actual spike or horn is protruding from the surface. So in this case we could have something, if I take the inflate brush, put a alpha 1 on it, increase that intensity a little bit, and you might have something that looks like this. Okay, and it's just to kind of create a separation where that horn is kind of purchasing into the surface, okay, or where it's protruding from the surface. Okay, so that gives us one option. However, looking at this, it does seem to blend. The whole design of the new Godzilla is interesting because there's all sorts of mixes of different skin types. There's layered scales, there's bumpy skin that isn't really layered scales, it's just bumpy skin. And then there is large plates. There's also things like gills and all sorts of different kind of design elements in there. So it does make for quite an interesting creature to sculpt, because he doesn't have layered scales as such in some of the reference. I guess it just depends on what your preference is. Okay, so I'm just going to undo this. I don't want that to kind of adjust that right now. I want to focus on getting the scales done. So we'll use Control and drag out a new copy. This time I'm going to be quite brutal, and I'm just going to use the select lasso, and I'm going to get rid of this bit, delete hidden, close holes, and then we'll smooth that back. Hey CC, thanks very much for coming along. And what I'll now do is I will start reshaping this one. I can probably get rid of that as well. And what I'm actually going to do here is, I think I might rotate this one. The only downside to using the control drag duplication method is that you will obviously have one large mesh, so you'll constantly have to be masking objects in order to get them to look right, but it's a small price to pay, I think. There we go. Oh no, what's going on there? What have I done? So I am just going to fix this as best I can. I've broken this one. The one wasn't paying enough attention, so we'll just redo it. So hold Control, click and drag, and this time I'm going to move this down a little bit like so, and I'm going to focus on this section here. So let's be a little bit more careful. Hey Polly, thanks for coming along. How are we all doing, folks? CC, how are you doing? Polly, how are you getting on? How are things? There we go. Well, as I sculpt away, folks, I am just going to ramble. That's kind of what I do. So, hey Pete, thanks for coming along. How are you getting on? It's all right, how are you? Moderate bad, but that's still up for debate. What an interesting way to put that, Dennis. Hungry. Pete is hungry, everyone. Somebody get Pete some food. He's hungry. Okay. So we'll just do something like this. And then for the last one, you know what? We're going to be a little bit lazy here. And I'm just going to mask out this one, bring that down to here, and I'm going to make that quite large. And that's going to act as the next one down the line. And I'll take my inflate brush and just beef up some of the spikes here, just to add a bit more dimensionality to them. There we go. And then we've got a another couple of small spikes on the top of his head, so we're going to do that. But what's good about these is that we're going to be able to use them for the side spikes as well, because like I say, he's got multiple layers. So doing good. Seam ripping a duvet cover so I can use the fabric for something else. Ah, cool, okay, yeah. So just tearing things apart, I like it. I'm alive, so it's a start. I have eaten, so that's also a plus. These are the things that these are all the things that we can ask for in the world. That's what we want. To be alive and to be able to eat. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this middle spike section here and just extract that out, delete hidden, close holes. Potentially use just a little bit of Sculptris Pro to clean that up nice and quick. And I will reshape this. Oh, wait a minute. There we go. Didn't mean to do that. Okay, what I'm going to do here is need to do it the other way around. There we go. Otherwise, we lose a bunch of stuff, so we'll just close the holes on that. Again, Sculptris Pro, just to clean up these edges. There we go. And bring that down. So we need to do a little bit of reshaping on this one. Grab the move brush. And then just start to bring that together. If you have a paying job offer for me, that would be great. Yes, that is true. I think a lot of people right now, that is that's what they're looking for. And not just in our industry, it's just pretty bad out there for a lot of folk. So, there we go. Right, so with this smaller section, I'm going to do an auto groups, and then I'm going to mask this one out and do split unmasked points. So we've got one on its own. Now I'm going to take that and I'm going to manually duplicate it here in the subtool palette, because this one is going to behave slightly differently. So this one is going to be about here, and we're going to start something like this. So we've got this nice overlapping feature on the version of the character I've got here. There's this nice overlapping feature anyway. And again, the reference for him is it's quite varied, is all I'll say. It is quite varied. So we need that to be about there. Bring it back a bit, and just use the AccuCurve curve and the move brush again, just to make that a bit more spiky. There we go. Use Control and drag to bring a new one out, resize it, and reshape. Smooth it back a bit just to lower it down, and then bring it up in line. There we go. And then I think what I'll do is I'll just do one more. Move that up a bit higher. And this time I'm going to drag out some of the lower part of the spike so that it can kind of connect. And I'm going to do the same with this one. Like so. And then we're just going to Dynamesh these together. Actually, do you know what? We will not Dynamesh. We're going to use my favorite, Remesh by Union. Hit accept. And then with that in line, I will take a mask and do this. So I roughly know where that needs to be. Do a quick poly selection, delete hidden, close holes, Sculptors Pro, and clean that up. There we go. Hey Stan, nice to have you here. You've come for your Godzilla. Get your Godzilla on. Okay, so we'll do something like this, just to kind of bring that together a bit more, and then I can refine it and spread it out a bit more, like so. The way I would describe the design of the new Godzilla would definitely be, he's like an alien landscape, like his whole body. It's just, it's very cool. I really do like the design. I mean, I still, as we've discussed before, I'm not a fan of the really small head and the short neck. I like my Godzilla a little bit more Toho, you know. There used to be someone called Stanhos here. Don't know who this imposter is. Okay. So we'll do something like that. All right, okay. And then let's mirror that across. So we're just going to turn off perspective. I'm going to reset that. And hopefully, yeah, reset that. We'll do mirror, merge into one subtool. We hope it's worked. And there we go. Okay. I think what we'll, all right, let's see where we're going to now go now that we've got that kind of in place. So we should probably start bringing the lower jaw in line with the rest of the head, so we can actually start combining these together into one thing. Gods are looking amazing, by the way, Pat. Really nice. Do miss the angry penguin pose. I miss the angry penguin pose as well, Stan. However, I felt that in the kind of essence of not boring everybody, that we would try and just make a bust so that we can cover things a bit quicker, so we can look at different ways of making scales and possibly some cool brushes that you can pick up as well. So yeah, we'll maybe return to it. If, you know, as I've said, the whole point of the A to Z of creatures, folks, is that once we get through the whole alphabet, we're going to do a vote on the Discord and on the Firestorm Instagram and such like that, where people will get to vote for which version or which letter we turn into a full image. So in the final like 5 minutes. What you mean? Just literally go in with the, if we go into the snake hook brush like this, we turn on our Sculptors Pro and go, well, we need some little penguin arms. Okay, there we go. And then we'll just inflate it. We'll inflate that. Need to turn off Sculptors Pro first. So we'll inflate them like this. There we go. Done. No. So what we're going to do, folks, is we're going to take, so we've got the eye sockets. Hopefully, if we have time, I'm going to show you a trick with the eye socket that we modeled before, how to integrate that into the model we have. Best sculptor, 10 out of 10. I know, right? I mean, it looks as though this is how I prove that I've been sculpting for way too long, is that, you know, we make tiny little arms on massive creatures. So I am going to take the lower jaw here. I'm just going to check what parts I have. I think I've only got that. I'm going to move this up. We're going to save our file. And we will do a merge down. And I'm going to switch over to a different material here. I may have covered this in a previous stream, but if you're using the lightbox in Zbrush and it's maybe taking up a bit too much room on your viewport, if you hold down the control key, click at the bottom of the lightbox, you can move it in and out so that you'll be able to see everything in one go. So you don't have to scroll along to get what you need. You can just make it a little bit smaller. So I'm going to go into materials here and into Marlon Nunez. Definitely recommend you go and pick up his material. So I'm going to put that on, and in my render settings, I'm going to make sure that I'm going to increase the intensity of my occlusion here, just so I can see the outline of Godzilla a bit better. Do a quick light check. It's looking okay. Wait, what material is that? Which one, Stan? The red one or the one I'm using at the moment? So, the one you just put on. This one here, if I go into my materials here, this is the Marlon Nunez MR Skin material. You can access it by signing up to his newsletter, and they will send you the material. It's a very, very good material to work with. I'm just going to change the color ever so slightly so that people can see it a bit better. All right, so we have connected up the lower jaw, but as always, we turn on our wireframe. They're not connected yet. So we're going to connect it by doing a remesh by union, making sure that we've turned off our symmetry, because remember, if you have symmetry on when you do a remesh by union, it's going to break something. All right, so just bear that in mind. But in other news, I've mentioned this on other streams as well. I make things for 3D print. My own personal 3D printer recently just broke, and it's gone the way of the dodo. Unfortunately, it is not coming back. I even tried soldering things, which did not work. I think I made it worse. So I've been exploring different companies in the UK that do printing, and I found a place in London, and I've got a test print for a project that I've been trying to finish for ages. So I've got that sent off. So I will report back on that next week, or on my personal stream, which you can follow me on. You will find the QR code at the bottom of this stream. And speaking of connecting, if you also look in the bottom of the stream banner, you will see the social media links and a QR code for Firestorm Studios. Please, please do yourself a favor. Check us out on Instagram, YouTube, and over on Discord, and feel free to join. It's a really great community and well worth it, particularly if you're looking for mentorships. It's something that Firestorm Studios offers. Most of the artists that stream on the channel also offer mentorships. So whatever your poison might be it Houdini, Blender, Zbrush, Maya, you will find someone that can help you out. All right, so please do check us out. And you can also check us out if you just want to hang out. God, Pat, you're such an amazing... Thank you, Stan. I appreciate that. That's very kind of you to say. Right. Okay, so what I'm now going to do here is just going to lower the intensity of my smooth brush here. I'm going to very gently bring this together here just by tapping on along the edge. But I'm second guessing myself now because okay, we'll just tap. Okay, so whenever you're using Sculptris Pro, don't just rush in and kind of like scribble onto it, okay, because you're going to lose some of the detail. I find that just tapping along when I'm using the brush will, you're almost kind of just creating kind of like a mottled effect, and that's going to help blend it together a little bit easier, but it's also going to give you an escape route if you make a mistake, because mistakes are going to happen, folks, when you sculpt. Mistakes happen when you do anything in life. The key thing is to not let it stop you if you make a mistake. Keep going. Work through the mistake. Don't let it kind of push you over. Remesh by union, Sculptris Pro is such a different workflow. Any reason to do this over Dynamesh and ZRemesh over Clean Mesh? Okay. So that's a really good question, actually, Stan. It does just come down to preference a lot of the time. I mean, there is pros and cons for everything, right? No matter what technique you're using in ZBrush, there is no perfect way to do it. So I would also say I'm not actually at this stage, I'm not making a clean mesh. If I wanted to make a clean mesh to then sculpt into, to do details, UVs, that type of thing, then I would go either the ZRemesher route to retopologize it, or I would manually retopologize it in something like TopoGun, which is my software of choice for retopologizing my mesh. So that's what I would do if I needed a clean mesh. But what I'm doing here is I'm just trying to consolidate the meshes I have to try and keep my subtool palette as clean as possible. Okay, I want to try and keep as few subtools in here inside of my subtool palette as I can, and that's just a preference. It's not a rule, it's a preference for me because it allows me to stay more organized. Something you'll see me do a lot, if we take this, these for example, the scales at the back, they're all separate meshes, but I've merged them down. So if you have an object, and it can be a creature, it can be a robot, it can be a prop, if you need to kind of consolidate and clean up your subtool palette just to make your life a bit easier, and to just create a little bit more sense of less chaos in your scene file, there's nothing wrong with doing that, because remember that in ZBrush, as long as you don't fuse meshes together, i.e. with Dynamesh, Sculptris Pro, Remesh by Union, or ZRemesher, as long as you don't fuse them together, you will be able to separate them again. Okay, you'll sometimes get this warning in ZBrush. For example, if I say, right, I'm going to take this, I'm going to do merge down. ZBrush is going to tell me this is not an undoable operation, right? And it's 100% correct, because if I hit OK and then I hit Control Z, ZBrush is not going to separate these again. Okay, so we hit OK, and now these are all the one subtool. They're one subtool, but they're individual meshes. Okay, it's like if you combine 5 or 6 cubes in Maya. They're one mesh, but they're multiple objects. Okay, because they're not actually, they're not connected or fused together or welded together. Okay. So I wouldn't say there's any reason to do it over ZRemesher and Dynamesh, other than preference. It's entirely up to yourself. Now, obviously, the pros and cons of something like Sculptris Pro are that, say for example, we decide that we want to start adding some bumps. Let's see if I got, yeah, we could actually now start doing some smaller spikes on top of his head. So I would use Sculptris Pro with Snakehook, and I could maybe put AccuCurve on. And as I bring this out, I'm able, because I have Sculptris Pro on and because it's going to retessellate my mesh, I'm able to drag out small tendrils. If I do that with Dynamesh, it's not going to allow me that flexibility. So if I turn off Sculptris Pro and then try it, you can see how quickly the Snakehook brush falls over. Okay, so that's where the pro and con comes in. However, Sculptris Pro doesn't allow us to work with masking, as in backface mask. It will turn it off. It won't let me work on the mesh with it turned on or with polygroup masking on, and it also doesn't work with subdivisions. So there's always a pro and a con with whichever workflow you use. It's just about finding your way around it to get the model, to get the project finished in the way that's most efficient to you. Okay, so hopefully that somewhat ramble makes sense. Okay. Where was I? Okay. What was I doing? Yes, we were combining the mouth. We're combining the mouth. So let me just zoom in here, and we're probably going to have to create a tongue for him. But I want to clean up the inside here a little bit more. I'm going to turn off my occlusion here. You're going to see a huge difference in the model. Okay. Be helpful if I turned on symmetry as well. There we go. The other thing I would say as well, whenever you're doing creature mouths, there's less room inside a creature mouth than you might think. Okay, if you really want to add that realism, there's a lot going on inside a creature's mouth. There's a lot going to be a lot. There's, you know, because it's not just an empty cavity. It's not just a cave. You've got to remember that there's other anatomy going on inside behind the mouth. Okay, you're going to have muscles, tendons, fatty tissues, bone, all these kind of things. So that's something I would definitely make yourself aware of and be very kind of aware of when you're sculpting a creature, is that there's a lot going on inside the creature's mouth that you will have to take into account if you want to make it look realistic. And again, this is more of a sketch of Godzilla. I would like to finish him off. I feel like you're critting me personally here. No, not at all, Pete. Not at all. By the way, folks, you really should check out Pete's stream. Okay, if you want to know about actually concepting creatures, characters, all that type of thing, check out Pete's live stream. Okay, you will not be disappointed. Both his Firestorm and his personal one. Okay, so go and subscribe to both. Click all the things, as Heather likes to say. Press all the buttons. Okay. I just love to give it a big mouth and big teeth. So let's create ourselves, what I am going to do is I'm going to start, see, I have a bit of an issue with models that are too clean, which I think is the opposite to a lot of people. I hate seeing, I like the effect of things like the clay tubes and like the fact that you can see the brush strokes. I've always liked that about sculpting. It does sometimes kind of confuse me that I've never went into doing conceptual sculpting. I think it's mostly because I'm not much of a designer, really. You give me your design, I can make it, not a problem. Give me anything that you want me to model, I will make it. That's no problem. But when you ask me to kind of design something, I overthink it too much. But it's okay, because I know lots and lots of people that are amazing at doing concepts. And it's one of the things, actually, one of the benefits that I think that maybe sometimes goes unspoken when it comes to teaching, is how amazing the students are that you teach. And I have said this to many, many a student, and I say it with 100% conviction. I really wish I was as talented as they were, or they are, when I was their age. I really do. The skill that the students that I have had the kind of fortune to teach over the last 15 years, it blows my mind every single time. You love to see it. And if you've never taught before, and you're maybe you're an artist in the industry, this kind of goes out. This is kind of more directed at anyone who's maybe currently working in the industry and is feeling maybe a little bit disheartened by the state that we're in and things like that. Go and teach. I'm telling you this now. Do a guest lecture, do a small talk, do a small workshop. and interact with students who are just getting into this field. And I can guarantee that your passion for what it is that you do will be reignited, because that's what happened to me when I went to teach at the animation workshop in Denmark back in 2019. You will not be disappointed. I mean, if you like teaching, you might not have any kind of desire to teach, but even if you just do a talk about your journey through the industry, it'll help. You know, it'll boost up and generate all this excitement, and I think it can help a lot when if you need a bit of a boost. Because the honest answer is, and this goes out to the students now and all the new artists out there, even professional artists who've been doing this for 20 plus years. We all sometimes have rough days, you know, where we're not as inspired and things like that. And I think it can sometimes look as though things are not a problem for us, that we don't struggle with what we're doing on a day-to-day, but we do. People do. It's just kind of human nature. We all kind of, you know, you cannot have success without something failing. That's the kind of hard truth of it. You know, if something goes up, it has to come down. But it's how you handle that when that happens. That's the kind of the key thing. That's the kind of key healthy thing to bear in mind. So folks, I'm going to move away from that kind of talk. Unless anyone has any specific kind of queries or questions, because I don't want to put anyone down. The whole point of these streams is to kind of keep everyone positive, okay? I don't think I have the experience nor the aptitude for teaching. I didn't think that either, Dennis, when it was about myself. When it came to myself, I did not think I would be able to teach at all. I got into teaching because of the global recession in 2008, and I was asked to teach a class and I needed work, so I said yes. And the rest, they say, is history. So now that we're starting to get somewhere, we're now starting to kind of just work through and sketch out some of his details. But I did say that we would give him a tongue, and I haven't done that yet because I got distracted with something else on the character, which happens way too often, more often than I would like to admit. And I think we should finish his teeth off, because we can kind of ignore and sketch in the lower half of him, but we really need to get that head working, right? Thank you, recession. Thank you. That's one of the only times I think I've heard anyone say thank you, recession, but thank you for that. I appreciate that. Okay, now let's get the tongue in, we'll finish the teeth, and then we'll focus on the head. How are we doing? Oh, we're only 53 minutes in. We've managed to actually do a fair bit. So there might be another one soon. Probably. I'm up for a third. I've been through two now. I can take a third if I have to. So, sorry folks, I'm just having to kind of readjust here, fix my back. There we go. I will not thank the next one. Everybody gets one thank you. Every recession gets one thank you. That's it. Okay. So let's do the tongue now. So we're going to append a cube, and then we'll initialize it into a 1 by 1 by 1 Q cube. And we'll subdivide it a couple of times, and then we will get that shaped. Grab the AQ curve and let's just pop it down and then drag that out. Actually, you know what? We're going to do this a slightly different way. We're going to mask it out and pull it and scale it manually. There we go. And we'll do a little bit of ZModeler here. Oh, subtools. See, this is another thing. This is something I would love for Maxon to introduce. I would love to be able to work with ZModeler with subdivisions. That for me would be a huge thing, because it's quite frustrating that you can't. I understand why it might be quite difficult to implement, but it would be kind of cool if I was able to. Oh, we've got a question. I am learning ZBrush right now, but I'm confused. Should I use Blender for sculpting? Okay, if you have access to ZBrush and you're learning ZBrush, I personally would stick with ZBrush. ZBrush is designed for sculpting. Blender has sculpting as part of its toolset, but so does a lot of other pieces of software, right? For example, if you were to say, oh, what should I animate in? Blender or ZBrush? Blender. What should I render in? I would say Blender, okay? But when it comes to sculpting, I personally believe there is no better tool than ZBrush. And if you have access to it, then that's the tool I would suggest you use and learn. I think it'll be more beneficial to you. That's not to say that something like Blender doesn't have a good tool set for sculpting. It does. So does Maya. Maya actually has a sculpting tool set in it that's been adopted from Mudbox. It's nowhere near as efficient as Mudbox, ZBrush or Blender, but it's still in there. But it's not the key focus of that tool set. So yeah, bit of a ramble, but that's what you get when you have a stream with me. ZBrush is what I would use for sculpting, and then use Blender for everything else, your retopology, your UVs, that type of thing. Okay. Again, tool sets that are available in ZBrush, you can do UVs and retopology in ZBrush, but you will have a better time of it in Blender, I would imagine. I don't know. I'm not a Blender user. I'm not a Blender user really. But I have looked into its sculpting tool set when it kind of came out with its new one. I thought, oh, I better check it out, see what it's like. And yeah, it's actually pretty good, but it does slow down. It's it's not nowhere near as efficient as ZBrush's is. My pleasure. Happy to help. Okay, so we're going to thicken up the tongue. Apparently my tongue isn't attached to my my mouth today. So I'm going to bring this element down here. There we go. When I said that, I'm going to admit something to you all. When I said that, there we go, or there we are, it immediately reminded me of a quote, or like a quote from an old TV show that I doubt anyone will know on this stream. It's an old British sitcom called One Foot in the Grave, and there's a particular scene that phrase reminded me of. Very random, I know, but unfortunately that's just how my brain works. So right, let's get the tongue in the mouth, and now I can start readjusting the shape of the tongue. So we're going to pull up. I've got a great reference here actually to show how his tongue is actually situated in the mouth. We might have to extend that a little bit. There we go. God, I love Godzilla. I'm sorry, but Godzilla is just so cool. Oh, I saw this. Hello, sir. What are your predictions for AI in 3D industry as a character artist especially? My predictions for AI. Well, okay, let me think. I want to answer this I want to try and be and not ramble as much when I give you an answer here. So, I think that we will continue to see new LLMs, new generative AIs that try to replicate the process or simplify the process of creating a 3D model. We already have systems out there that will take an image and turn it into a 3D model for you. They promise that it's usable, but in my experience, it's not. Now, I am very staunchly against generative AI. That's a stance I take. I'm against generative AI. But that doesn't mean that I don't research it and that I don't keep in the loop of the different tools that are available to us, because I think that is a very sensible thing for everyone to do, whether or not you are for or against it. And really, that is entirely up to yourself. Everyone is allowed to be for or against it. But if it's not for you, then I would definitely still keep in the loop about it and think about it. So personally, yes, I think we're going to see more and more tools come out and they will start to improve. But here's the thing. My experience with AI is that what we're finding is that it's requiring more and more and more prompts to get something that people want. When in actual fact, if you gave it to a fleshy person, one of these fleshy human being things, we could do it technically quicker. Because the whole point of AI is that it's faster and it's cheaper, allegedly. I don't see that. And I think eventually, my kind of predictions for AI is that eventually it's going to become so expensive because of the amount of prompts and the amount of credits that people are going to require, that companies are going to have to start charging people. The free generative credits are going to go. They're going to reduce over time, and then eventually you're going to end up having to pay a lot of money for per prompt, and that is when we'll see a switch, and they'll go back to proper artists, or real artists, really, is what I should say, fleshy artists. But I do believe that the tools will evolve to help us out, to make things faster for us. For example, a more advanced algorithm for unwrapping UVs. That would be great. I don't want the AI to do it for me, but what I wouldn't mind is an algorithm that is better for unwrapping UVs, makes it cleaner for me, that type of thing. So I have to do less manual work. But I think that's where the tools will eventually go. But before we get there, we're going to have to kind of fight our way through the weeds, because we're going to get a lot of tools coming out promising lots of different things. I saw a recent one on LinkedIn about retopology, and in the marketing image for the retopology, I could see 5 major issues with the retopology on the face that I would not pass in a pipeline or an industry setting. And that to me is like, well, if you're marketing it and you have a mistake in your marketing image, then it's not ready to be used like that. It means you always require a human input to doing something. But as I said, I don't think it's not going to go away. AI is not going to go away. So you should really research it, be aware of it, and adapt to it. And you make the choice whether or not you want to use it or if you don't want to use it. I have made the choice not to use it. So, for any kind of art or anything like this, it's not something I want to support. So I hope that answers your question. I'm not going to try and pronounce your whole name, but Jormam. Hopefully that answers your question. That's what I predict will happen. And to sum that up, I believe that we will see a lot of tools that are going to make a lot of promises, and they will get better. And then eventually AI will become so expensive for studios to use that they will revert back to using us. but the tools will evolve with us and they'll probably become part of our everyday in some shape or form. But until that day comes, I will be just not using it. But I am, yes, I'm, and again, and also I would like to point out, if anyone in the chat or watching the stream uses AI, that's fine. I'm not against people using it. It's just I'm against myself using it. It's not something that I want to do. I cannot remember the navigation keys when I use Maya and Blender. Is this the same problem you faced with multiple software? Oh, all the time. Yeah, 100%. I still mix up ZBrush and Maya. If I spend an extended amount of time inside of ZBrush and then I have to go over to Maya for a project or to do something, I will make a mistake on the shortcut keys. And it's the same goes for software like ToppleGun. I screw up ToppleGun all the time because I'm not in it as often as I am in Maya or ZBrush. So yeah, it's a complete, that's totally normal. I think everyone does that. Everyone does that. Everyone does that. Quite common. These are really great questions, folks. Thank you very much. But yeah, I mean, just to kind of continue with the AI discussion, like I said, just to kind of, just again, I don't want people feeling as though I'm disparaging or shaming people who use AI. I'm not, because I actually think that some of the LLMs, they can do some really cool stuff. They can do some really funny stuff as well, right? There is a place for them, but my issue is the fact that that the use of them in my industry is taking jobs away from artists, and that's where I draw the line. Use them for fun stuff, but you know, don't use them to take people's jobs away. Okay. What is your favorite Godzilla? From which movie? I mean, oh, my favorite Godzilla is the classic 50s Toho Godzilla. That's my favorite Godzilla. That's the one I grew up with. Okay. But yes, as I said, folks, these are great questions. Radhejim. Okay, yep, no problem. No problem. Okay, that's working pretty well. Let's do a little bit of extra work on the, don't need to do much, but we'll do a little bit of sculpting on the tongue. How are we doing, folks? Okay, we're just over an hour in. We may have to we may have to extend our stream a little bit, folks, if we're going to try and finish off more of this today. I don't want to spend another stream on this, so wherever we get to with Godzilla tonight is going to be the last one, folks, I'm afraid. But we're kind of there. We're getting there. Right, let's jump into the teeth and let's stop dilly-dallying. Also, please feel free to join the Discord in Firestorm to mock my oldness. That's perfectly okay. Everybody on the team does it anyway. One person in particular, she knows who she is. And I can hear her screaming now when she sees this, because it's a little bit of a running joke that I have with one of the team members. But in all seriousness, folks, please join the Discord, join in the community, and come and say hey to everyone. You may get a chance to speak with some of us directly. We're in the voice channels frequently. And yeah, you'll be able to kind of ask queries, questions, share your work, get help on your work, mentorships, all that great stuff. So yeah, please do come and check out the Discord. Right, I am floundering a bit here because I'm trying to decide what to do. Teeth, that's what we're doing. Okay, so teeth are always an interesting one, because when we did FizzGig, I showed a technique for using nanomesh to do the teeth because of the style of teeth he had. But for Godzilla, I don't think... oh, also, just as an addendum to Jormam's question about my favorite Godzilla, I know that's a bit of a hot take, I'm quite a fan of the 1998 Godzilla design. The movie with Jean Reno and Matthew Broderick, where Godzilla was kind of like rebooted, if you will, and essentially was an iguana that was then radiated by a nuclear blast and became huge. Sounds crap, I know, but you know. I have a bit of a soft spot for that design. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just the age I was when that film came out, but yeah, I have a bit of a soft spot for that design. So anyway, but for Godzilla, I think taking a more, we'll try and make it symmetrical as possible, but taking a more customized root approach to the teeth may be better. So I've got a decent looking, reference here. So I'm going to do what I can to copy it as fast as I can. Let me see. And here's a little thing that I also tend to do, folks, if I can remember how to do it, which I don't think I can. Sometimes I will flip a reference so that I can work from the right side, so that it actually lines up so that my reference is the same. So say for example, I'm working on his left side of his mouth, but the reference I have is on the right side. I will sometimes flip the image to make my life easier. And I'm just trying to remember how to do that in my software. There we go. It's the same reason I like to kind of add colors to my models frequently. It just helps me see. It's because I'm old. All right, so now that I've got that in place, I'm going to find one of the teeth here, and we're just going to copy these. So control, okay, here's another thing. The control click method will not work on meshes with subdivisions. So that's actually where we're going to have to do some manual duplication here. This is where your parts can actually start to really increase when you're working on a model. And this is why I try and keep them as low as I can. So we're just going to, what's that? I made an old joke, so I know that there's I can feel the judgment. Sorry, Cece. So again, I'm not going to try and match these 100% to the reference. I just want to give an indication to his teeth. He doesn't actually, what's kind of interesting is that he doesn't seem to have a huge amount of teeth in general. It's actually getting quite hard to see what we're doing here, so we're going to try and scale these up a bit. There we go. But yes, keep those questions coming, folks, if anyone has anything that they want to ask. I rarely get asked questions on my stream, so yeah, I'm always up for giving you my take on things. Okay, that'll do for the bottom. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe I want to do a few more. There we go. Duplicate. And another little tip that I can show you. I suppose that's true, Dennis. I suppose that's true. And another little thing as well, folks, if you have multiple subtools in your viewport or on the canvas in ZBrush, if you hold the Alt key and tap, and if you turn on polyframe, you'll be able to see this. You can see this more clearly. As I hold down Alt and tap on a different subtool, ZBrush will automatically select that for you, okay? And that's really helpful because it stops you having to kind of constantly move over to your subtool palette, all right? And I think I'm just going to put a few more in the upper part of the mouth. These are where the larger teeth kind of tend to reside. But I do like the fact, I quite like the design element here that he doesn't actually have that many teeth. It's quite cool. Right, I've got a few sharper ones in the front, which are going to be a bit smaller. Rotate those round. Make sure it's in a little bit and just rotate that. There we go. What's this? Didn't watch from the start. Do you have a workflow where you start low poly to build the main shapes, then add resolution? Yes, I do. Let me just quickly save, and I'll kind of talk you through that. Yeah, generally the way I start my models off is I will normally start with a Z-sphere to kind of knock out a fairly quick armature of what the character is going to look like. And I can quickly demonstrate that. So if I take a Z-sphere here, right, we're going to move it across to the side, and say we wanted to block out what we have here. Okay. Actually, do you know what? Bear with me. Symmetry doesn't. Oh no, wait, I can use local symmetry. There we go. Or can I? Oh no, he doesn't work on Z-spheres. Sorry, folks, bear with me. Oh, there we go. Okay. So if we wanted to block out the bust here of Godzilla, I would start with a standard Z-sphere, make sure I have symmetry on it, and we're going to use the draw tool to draw out another Z-sphere. And I essentially create a chain of connected spheres that I can scale, rotate, and translate to create a shape. And it looks really simple, but if I tap the A key, you can see that I can actually make basic pieces of geometry from it. And that is essentially how I start my models. So I'm going to tap in here again, and I can now start to refine the shape a bit more. So say, for example, we wanted to add some shoulders onto it. Well, we can do that. Like so. Say we wanted to add a spike on the back. Well, we can do that as well. And then you end up with something that looks really, really funny and really silly like that, but it is a good way to start out your meshes, okay? And if you spend a bit more time than I did there, then you can end up with a really solid looking base mesh that you can then work on. But it's just to get a shape going, right? Another option that I will use is I will just go the sphere route. So if I append a sphere, and let's dynamesh it. So we're going to turn on our polyframe here. We're going to dynamesh it to something low. Mirror and weld. And again, now just have the symmetry on. Grab the move brush, and I will normally only use the move brush. I'll use move, redynamesh it, and various insert mesh brushes to kind of block out the shape that I need. And you can use this in combination with adding different meshes in manually by appending them into your subtool stack, or you can use something like the insert mesh brushes. So for example, if I wanted to add a little bit more into the eyes here, say I wanted to create the ridges for the brow, I can add in a sphere, and then I can start to spread that out and add that shape in, like so, like that. Then I can unmask it and I can start to refine the shape a bit more. And then if I dynamesh together, I can start blocking out the shape a bit more as well. Again, just using the move brush, not really thinking more about anything like that. And that's what I would recommend if you are starting to, if you want to kind of block something out very low, which is what I would recommend, then you can use one of these techniques. Because working at a low resolution will stop you from fiddling with the mesh as much. It's going to stop you kind of getting lost in the weeds and kind of tweaking things in details. It stops you, it takes away the ability to create detail. Okay. And then once you're happy with what you've created up to a certain point, you can then start maybe using some of the sculpting brushes to start adding in some small shapes. Basic form, keeping the form nice and simple, and then continuing to refine. Okay, so a very, very quick just example here, but hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so we'll just bring that down. And obviously I've spent a couple of minutes just doing that there, but you spend a couple of hours on it and you'll have something in no time. So we'll just delete that. There we go. And you can also block out the shapes in several ways. If you look back on some of the previous streams from on the Firestorm YouTube channel, you'll be able to see how I've built out every creature we've done up until this point. And I tend to use different techniques on different streams just to kind of give people a bit more variety on how to approach, because everyone's going to want to approach creating their creatures or their characters or their props in a slightly different way, okay? Because everyone's going to have everyone has a different, is able to visualize things differently, okay? It's looking great so far. No, my pleasure. That's the thing. That's the whole point of these, is that if you have a question, we can go through it, okay? It's not a big deal, okay? Don't worry about it. So if you've got any further questions, please feel free to ask, and I'll happily demonstrate, folks. I'll try and make them look, sometimes look a bit better than I did there, but you know. What do we have? Being a multi-software artist is not a skill, it's survival training. At this point, I don't need better GPU, I need better brain RAM. I don't forget shortcuts. That's a good way to put it. I like that. I mean, again, what you can get, depending on the software that you use, there is keyboards out there. There's keyboard sticker sheets that you can get. Swear to God, they're really quite helpful. Is you can get sticker sheets for your keys that will tell you the shortcuts. I've seen some desk mats as well that I'd love to get for Maya and Zbrush that tell you what the shortcut keys are, which I think would be really helpful definitely be helpful for me, because I forget hotkeys all the time. I actually don't use hotkeys in Maya because I forget them all the time. So the navigation one's fine, but yeah, otherwise I forget. So now that I've got the teeth in place, I am going to do, where is it? I'm going to hide this and grab the teeth. There we go. So now we found out earlier on that the teeth won't allow us to copy them because they're made up of multiple subdivisions, right? So that means that when I go to combine them together so I can mirror them, it could cause a few problems. So what I want to do is if I go up to the Z plugin menu here and I go into Subtool Master, there's a really useful little button, which I would recommend putting on your custom shelf, is high res viz or low res viz. So everything in your subtool palette that's visible, ZBrush will either switch it to its lowest subdivision or its highest. So if I do high res viz, it's going to go through each of the character teeth and make sure they're at their highest. And if we zoom in on the teeth, you can see the design that we've got on them. Just something really basic that we can duplicate. Okay, the same goes for these little guys down here. But now that they're all at their highest, now I'm quite comfortable going in and merging them all down. So I'm just going to do this one by one, merge down, and I'm going to say, now this is something I would recommend you do not do, okay? I'm going to choose the option always okay, skip no until next restart. Because what's going to happen here is ZBrush will not warn me about this. So if I make a mistake, that mistake is committed. So I'm going to hit always okay. I'm going to live dangerously, folks. You know, there we go. Keep merging those down. I'm just going to keep checking that it's working. It's going to take a little bit of time because it's going to update the subdivision surfaces as it merges those down. Do that one last time. And there we go. So the reason I've done that is really to make my life easier. But because I put them all to their highest subdivisions, when I go into the geometry tab here, even though they're all merged together, because they all shared the same topology, they now all subdivide up and down, but they're all one mesh. So this is a trick I use quite a lot, but you have to make sure that your duplicates don't get changed in a topological manner, and as long as they're at their highest subdivision, when you merge them down, ZBrush will allow you to reconstruct the lower resolutions. Missed the beginning of the last time we talked about. Stager, oh, definitely, 100%. We will look at the stager just now. The stager is a really helpful thing. But what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to take these teeth and I'm going to go to mirror. And I'm going to, oh, how many? They're 1.3 million. We'll say okay. Well, as I said, we'll live dangerously. And if everything crashes, it's okay, it's fine. Right, let's save this while I remember. So I've got the teeth now. They're all symmetrical. And all I need to do is, oh, that's interesting. Why is it doing? Oh no, it's just a display issue. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate these, and I'm going to take one tooth, delete the rest. Oh, delete the rest. And then what I can do here is I can just use this extra tooth as a buffer for the middle. So I can kind of break the symmetry with the middle one. And it's a way of tricking the brain, I guess. Let me see. There we go. So we'll just move that across like so, scale it up. And I think for this one, I'm going to be, to save myself some time, I'm going to delete the highest, or the lower subdivisions. And that's just going to allow me to now copy it like so. It's a bit lazy, but it works. Okay, so let's look at the stager now that we have the teeth in place. Yeah. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, save. Okay, so Stager, what Stager actually allows you to do is to set an object in two different states of transformation. So, and what's great about it is that it means that you can sculpt on it and adjust it in both states, and it will update. So for example, let's say you wanted to have a jaw open and close, or actually let me think, what's a good example for this? Let me see. Okay, I'll make a new example. So I'm going to take this sphere. I see we have another question. I will get to it very shortly. I'm going to append a cube, scale it out like that. And then we're going to do control and drag it down. And there we go. Okay. So, behold my art. So, let's say that we have the top part of our character head, and we have this lower part for the jaw. And we looked at this last week, how we actually, or I think in the first week, how we could rotate the jaw up and down. So obviously we could just rotate the jaw like this and sculpt on it, but that might not be ideal. We might actually want to make sure that it's in two specific places while we work on it. Or it might even be that it has to be a certain scale on the model, but we need it to be. Thank you very much for the follow, Jarman. Appreciate it. It might mean that we want to kind of scale something down or make it asymmetrical on our model, but we want to work on it symmetrically, okay? I'll show you another example in a second, but this is just to show you the basics of how it works. So with our object, I'm going to go under Geometry, Stager, and with this object selected, I'm going to choose Home Stage. Now, that's it. I'm just going to magnify this for everybody. So the stager is here, and we've got Home Stage selected. Now, if I rotate it, and for fun, let's just say we scaled it out, okay? I can then hit Target Stage, like that. Now, if I switch between them, you'll see that the object actually switches between the two options. But what's cool about it is if I subdivide it a little bit, and let's just scratch something into it. Let's do it on the bottom. Why did that not work? Oh, there we go. Okay. And if I just put some markings on it so you can see what happens. Now when I go to switch stage, you can see that the object will switch and adjust, but it's going to keep that sculpted detail on it. So it's really, really helpful, okay? It's a really useful thing to use. And if we just switch between the two of them, we can see how that works. And the other thing is that if I wanted to, I can choose this interpolate button, which is kind of awesome. If I hit interpolate, oh, my apologies. We can't do this with subdivision, so bear with me. Delete lower, there we go. Interpolate. So what Zbrush is going to do is it's going to duplicate that object between those two states. Essentially, think of it, it's essentially keyframing it. All right, it's not, sorry, that's not true. Your home stage and your target stage are your keyframes. These are your in-between frames for your animation. So you can see the object that it's created. So you can use it, if you think about how it's going to interpolate, you can create lots of interesting shapes with it as a modeling tool, but I personally use it more as a positional tool, okay? So let me just undo that, and I'm going to show you all another quick example. So switch out of this. And I'm going to open up the light box here. I'm going to go to Tools, and we're going to use the Demo Soldier for this. Everyone's favorite Demo Soldier from the ZBrush 3.1 days. Okay, so let's say, for example, I have an object. So this is the piece of equipment that the character is holding, right? This is, it's maybe on his belt or something, right? So that's not what I meant to do. That's what I meant to do. So let's say, for example, okay. It's beneficial for me to be able to sculpt on this symmetrically, right? But the actual object itself sits at a weird angle on the strap of his backpack. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go back into the stager, so under geometry, stager, and I'm going to choose the home stage as the original position of the object. Okay, so essentially in the middle of the symmetrical plane. All right. Next, I'm going to move it and scale it down to where I know it needs to go. So now, if I just, and there is actually ways to do this quicker in Zbrush, but I'm just going to show you manually. So we do something like this, rotate it like that. There we go. So it's completely off axis. So doing that as a symmetrical object would be a bit of a pain. But if I hit target stage, I now have that object in place on the model. And if I do the switch stage, I can now switch it from an orientation that's easy for me to work on, add more details as needed, and then I can switch it back to where it needs to go on my overall character. So it's an incredibly helpful thing that they've added into ZBrush. I love the stager, I really do. It's a really helpful tool, folks. So yeah, so there we go. That's how the stager works in ZBrush. It's definitely something I might do a little short on because I think a lot of people forget that it exists in ZBrush. They made a big deal of it when it first got added, but I haven't seen much else from it. So there we go. Hopefully that helps, folks. Or hopefully that helps, CC. I'm just going to delete my art before we move on. Okay, and I know we have another question. So my teacher taught me that it's really important to learn, but I think sculpting feels like art, retopology feels like punishment. Well, your teacher is 100% correct. Retopology is one of the most important things that you can learn how to do in 3D if you're an asset artist. It is one of the core fundamentals of learning 3D. And the reason that it's a core fundamental, the reason that it's so important is that you might have a lot of tools out there that are specifically for retopology, zero mesher, auto retopology, that type of thing. But if you have to optimize it in a specific way, if you have to adjust the mesh in a certain way to get maybe an artifact to stop breaking your mesh, or diagnose an issue on an asset, which can happen. Sometimes there might be a rogue vertex, sometimes there might be some double faces, some, all sorts of things can go wrong with a model, okay? So being able to understand topology, all the different components, and how to kind of complete the puzzle that is retopology is really, really important. And it probably feels like punishment just because it can become quite tedious and it is a very difficult thing to learn. Or sorry, that's not fair. It's fairly easy to learn, it's difficult to master, okay? Retopology is one of the things that I pride myself on. It's one of my specialties, and it's something, and it's because I find it so important. It's why I push it a lot when I'm talking on streams and with my students, is that because it is such, I cannot stress how important it is that you can do good retopology, okay? And this is, it's simply from just making the most out of your meshes and making them as efficient and as optimized as possible while still retaining all the shape that you require for your character or your prop, okay? Because one of the things I would say is if you want to learn how to be good with topology is do hard surface, okay? Hard surface modeling is an incredibly difficult thing to do when you're doing it well. because you have to really think about how your edge flow is going to work. And when it comes to something like a creature, I'm not saying it's easy to do retopology on a creature or on a character, but there's certain guidelines, insert Pirates of the Caribbean meme right now, guidelines, that we follow with the face, okay? And it makes the topology a little bit easier to follow at times. But with something like hard surface, if you're doing a prop, it will be different every single time. So I would really, really stress that you want to, you want to learn retopology and you want to learn polymodeling to a high degree, okay? So that might not be what you want to hear, but I hope it makes sense, Radhe, okay? Thank you very much. Thank you. So hopefully that makes sense. My pleasure. My pleasure. Yeah, don't skip. It's kind of like when you go to the gym, folks. You don't skip leg day. You don't skip retopology, or UVs. It's one of the things. I wouldn't really consider myself like one of those kind of artists that makes lots of exciting kind of characters and stuff like that. I'm one of those artists that really kind of, or teachers really, that focuses on those core fundamentals. It's one of the things I stress all the time, and it is very boring. I'm aware it's not the most exciting thing, but I believe that if you understand those core fundamentals, you will be able to make anything. You don't have to find a tutorial on how to make a specific type of object, because you'll be able to understand the form and the shape of the item you're trying to create, and you'll be able to replicate that. Not necessarily the first time, it might take a couple of goes, but you'll be able to replicate it if you have that deep understanding of it. All right? Okay, folks, so let's keep going with, our Godzilla. So now I'm just going to do a quick change here. Images, range, where is it? Sorry folks, I just need to adjust one of the images here. There we go. Just flipping that over again. All right. So let's take a little bit more time on the head now. We'll finish up. Oh, that's one thing I did want to talk about, was this section here. So we've got two options for the eye sockets. We can either combine them into the mesh and then just blend it together, or we could try doing a reproject. So let's try a reprojection first. So to get that to work, we're going to have to fill in the eye socket. Because we need something for our projection to kind of cling on to. So let's do that. So at the moment we can't see anything. That's all right. I'm going to hide everything else. Make sure that's on, and then I'm going to select my mesh above. I've got my eye socket on, and I'm going to go to project. And I'll turn off blur, turn off the color, leave everything at default, and there we go. So it's going to look really messy to begin with, but we just go in and we smooth it. And I'm going to reproject again. I'm going to smooth it, reproject again. Okay. Next, I'm going to give myself more geometry in that area using a smooth trick with Sculptress Pro. Hold down Shift, turn on Sculptress Pro so that you're in the smooth mode, but turn off Z-Add. What this will allow you to do is just paint into an area with more geometry. And if I reduce the size of the brush, I'll be able to add even more in there, okay? Like so. But because I've turned off Z-Add, it's not going to affect the actual surface itself. It'll just add that density into it. So now when I do a projection, I get even more detail. And now we can go in and now we can actually turn Z-Add back on, and we can smooth off Oh, there we go. Not Z-add, there we go. And now I can go in and I can blend that together. Like so. There we go. We're doing a little bit of a smooth again, just to get the shape where it needs to be. And then I will do another projection, but this time I'm going to mask with the mask pen. I'm just going to mask the inner area here. What's this? I don't consider myself one who does fundamentals well, nor make... Oh, Dennis, I don't think that's true. Your fundamentals are very well, you do your fundamentals very well, and your models are very cool. I should point out, folks, follow R. Frampt. Go find him. His work is excellent. Particularly, he has done an interpretation of Lolth. Dennis, if you want to kind of correct me on what franchise it's from, I can't remember if it's Magic the Gathering or Dungeons and Dragons, but he's done a great interpretation of Lolth that you need to check out. Absolutely stunning. So, Dungeons and Dragons, there we go. So I've masked out this area just so that I don't catch any of the broken area of it, and I'll do another projection. And you can see that we're still actually not there with the geometry. It's just not quite high enough to capture what we've done. So I'm going to do something that I wouldn't recommend, and I'm going to do a Control D to subdivide my Dynamesh. I wouldn't recommend it as common practice, but I'm going to do it as a speed thing. Invert that, do another projection, and there we go. That's what we wanted. We wanted a bit more extra detail in there. So now we can go into the subtool palette and just hide this, turn everything back on. And we're finally starting to get somewhere, folks. This is getting there. Let me see, I've got some other reference. There we go. Okay. So now that we've got a little bit more geometry on the forehead, we can start cleaning up the head details a bit. So and generally, when I'm doing something like if you're doing something like a giant, like dragon or a lizard, what you want to try and do is sculpt in all the main larger scales as a form, okay? And it might take a bit longer to do, but it will be worth it, I guarantee you. And actually, before we do this, do you know what? You know what we're going to do, folks? I think we're going to do a Z-remesh and then do a projection. So, Stan was asking about this earlier on, so Radhe get him. I'm not sure what you're laughing at, Radhe. Please do explain. But what I'm going to do here, folks, is I'm going to hold down Control and click on my undo history at the top here. That's going to save this as a state. And then if I go down to geometry, Z-remesher. Oops, I actually hit the button before I could explain what I was about to do. Not great. So what I'm going to do here is we have about 600,000 polys for our head. So I'm going to set the target count to 8. So it's going to try and aim for about 8,000, but I've got adaptive on, so it will give us like plus or minus enough geometry in order to hit all the right shapes that we have on our head. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the Use Poly Paint button, grab my paintbrush, and I'm going to paint around the head area, like so. And the reason I'm doing this is I'm now basically telling Zbrush that I want it to focus most of the Z-remeshed topology in this area. And that's going to ensure that I can capture as much of the detail in the head. The rest of the body doesn't require it as much, but the head does. Okay, so we'll hit Z-remesher. And this can be a really good way if you're ever having trouble with like parts of your model disappearing when you do a Z-remesh. This is a good way to go because it will selectively adjust it so that it weights it more towards the area that you selected. Okay. Okay. So with that done, I now have more consistent geometry. So I'm just going to do Control D once, and then I'm going to go to Subtool, and I'm going to go down to Project, but I'm going to choose Project History this time. Okay, that's made a mistake. That's not good. So that's fine. If you ever get any errors like this when it comes to your... Oh wow, that's really bad. What happened there? Interesting. No. How? That's really odd. It shouldn't have done that. Okay. Well, what I'm going to do instead then is I am going to duplicate this, go back up to here, move forward to the Z-remeshed one. So that there is my... Let me just check this, folks. There we go. That's my Z-remesh one at the top, high res at the bottom, and I'll just do a standard projection here. So we'll just do project. There we go. Try it again. Excellent. So now we can get rid of our high res one. And I'm going to get rid of the eye socket as well. And I'm going to do save next. Bring everything back. Oh, he's got no teeth. There we go. All right. So as I was saying, when you are kind of sculpting something like a giant kaiju or a dragon, something that's got large scales, I would always try and sculpt the larger parts in yourself and do it manually if you can. I mean, you can also do a custom, you could also, of course, create a custom alpha. But I would generally use alphas and tilables for the smaller scales just to fill in all the gaps. That's how I would approach it. I would just find it a little, it's going to give you a little bit more control over the look. And that's really important, particularly in an industry setting where, you know, if you use something that's, this is another reason why things like AI aren't great, because, you know, anytime I've ever seen an AI and you ask it to change a small thing, it doesn't change the one small thing you want, it changes the whole object. So when an art director or supervisor comes over and say, right, can you just change that bit? That's what you want. You don't want it to change the whole model. And by kind of approaching your larger shapes like this, you'll make your life way easier. So, and perfect example is here at the front. So he actually has some very large sections here on the head, and I'm just starting to break it up. And this is where, like I was saying earlier about his design, he's got large scales, he's got plates, he's got bumpy skin. They're all over, it's all over the place a little bit, really, with him. I'm going to use the the standard brush here. Don't sleep on the standard brush, folks. A great brush to have access to, so there we go. Then I'll maybe use something like the Move brush with AccuCurve. I'll start to shape out the brow a little bit. Now, there's other ways you can approach this. We use the standard brush with drag rectangle and an alpha like this. You put the intensity up We can maybe change that to something like this. There we go. So you don't need a fancy, don't necessarily need a fancy brush to kind of create the lumps and bumps. So kind of dragging these out, you can be quite random about it. And I know it's really low poly at this point, but that's fine. I just want to kind of get a base level down, okay? Because then I'm going to take something like the damn standard, subdivide it up. Again, we're kind of going, we're venturing into detail area here, which we're not really ready for, but I just want to kind of give you a rough indication of how you can approach it. And I can start to outline these, sharpen them up. Like that. Good day. Hi Axios Art, how are you doing? Good day to you as well, sir. So I can just start iteratively blocking these out and just layering up different effects as I go. And obviously there's nothing stopping you from then going to standard brush, drag rectangle stroke, grabbing something like the Alpha 64, and dragging out something like that, okay? But one thing I would suggest is whenever you're using an alpha, any kind of alpha, if it's a custom one or one you found online, is once you actually lay it down, you would approach it and maybe apply it to a layer, is you want to go in and work on top of it as well. You can do that a bunch of different ways. You can maybe use the inflate brush like I'm doing here, just to bring that all together a bit. And then you can sculpt on top of it. Don't just lay down the alpha and then let it and then leave it. You want to go into it and sculpt it. So you can see here that even though I've just used a basic, I'm going to put the occlusion on here. There we go. Even though I've used a standard Zbrush alpha with a little bit of the inflate brush and custom sculpting, I can start to make it look quite unique. Then I will take something like the damn standard and I will normally finish off something like a scale like that with a little bit of a random, just a random kind of stroke, quite sharp, just to add a bit of interest to it. So you can just keep working that, and you can have some of them push in, some of them push out. There we go. And also, whenever you're using a brush in kind of ZBrush, if there's one like a clay buildup that you prefer, you can also, remember, you can change the alpha of it to kind of give yourself a rougher effect. So if I change this to alpha 15, it's going to give me a different effect when I start sculpting with it, something a bit rougher, okay? Abrax94, I'm 31-year-old and I just discovered this world. I'd like to create a character in animated and live from this, but I feel it's too late. What do you think? Do I think it's too late? No, not at all. This is not something I subscribe to, okay? I truly believe that no matter what stage you are in your life, if you want to change the path you're on, you can change it. The only person that can change that path is you. So if this is something that you genuinely have a passion for, if it's something that, you know, excites you, then you should follow that passion. I can never remember where it's from. I remember a quote. It's basically, if you wake up in the morning and all you actually want to do is 3D sculpt, draw, paint, you know, go for a run. If that's what you think of, the first thing you do when you first wake up in the morning, then that's what you need to do. That's what you need to be. Okay. So being 31, not at all. 31 is young. 31 is young. So don't let society make you think that being 31 means you cannot change what it is you want to do with your life. You can change what you want to do with your life at 20, 30, 40, 50. Okay? So no. What I would recommend you do is find the area of this world, as you put it, which I really like. And find what makes you the most excited. If it's sculpting, if it's animating, if it's, you know, whatever that is, you follow that, okay? Someone in my class, exactly, right? People start at different ages. People find what their true passion is in life at different times. Not everybody knows what they want to do when they're 14, 15, 18, whatever. Sometimes you have to open a lot of doors before you find the right one that you want to go through, okay? Can you be honest with me? Can I have a comfort live doing this? How hard? Can I have a comfort living doing this, and how hard is it to get a job? Okay. So real talk, being an artist in the 3D, in the creative industry, okay? I will not single it down to what we do. If you are an artist, do not apologize for your English. Your English is fine. It's totally fine, okay? Don't worry about that. Being an artist or being a creative or working in the film industry, the creative industry, the arts, it is a hard life. We don't do it because it's easy, okay? That's not why we do it. We do it because we love it, okay? So no, you will not necessarily have an easy life at it, okay? And I can say that from someone who has been doing this for almost 20 years. I have had times where things have been going fantastic, going really well, lots of work, consistency, great, fantastic. But I've also had times where I've struggled to pay rent. I've struggled to buy food, okay? And that's me being completely real with you, right? I've had times like that in my life, but it hasn't stopped me, because what I'm doing is what gives me peace, okay? That's what gives me, you know, peace in life, is what it is I do, okay? And that, in my case, is teaching or working in the industry, you know, creating art. Can you make a good living out of it? Yes, you can. You can make a living out of it. Maybe not the best living, but you can make a good living out of what we do. But what that requires is a lot of hard work, constant hard work, time, and honestly, a little bit of luck as well. There is always a little bit of luck involved. What I would say to you, and this is, you know, you might love this, right? You might think, this is amazing stuff, I love doing it. If you are concerned about not being able to sustain yourself with this, then I would say do something else, and then keep art as your hobby. But at the same time, I would say if you really love doing this, then you've got to give it a shot. 31, hey, you give it a couple of years, you might hate it, you might not like it, you can always do something else. You don't have to do it forever. So hopefully that helps, Abrax. I hope that's answered your question. Stan8477. What would be the argument to doing this as a full? Oh, my pleasure, Abrax. My pleasure. What would be the argument to doing this as a full-on job compared to just a side hustle hobby and having a more secure job? What would be the argument? See, I'm finding that very difficult to answer. And the reason is that for me, there's never really been an option for me. I've known that I knew I wanted to work in the film industry when I was 14. Actually even younger, to be fair. I just didn't know exactly what it is I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to work in the movies since I was 9 years old. That's what I wanted to do, right? So I think the argument for doing this as full-time, as compared to either doing it as a side hustle for enjoyment or full-time, is stability. That is one thing I would say, because when you choose to go down the path of an artist or a creative of any type, stability is not guaranteed. It never is. Anything that you enjoy doing as a passion, I don't think can guarantee stability. The reality is that society at the moment, the way the world is at this time, is that even what we would consider a secure job 5 years ago, 10 years ago, isn't secure. Okay? Looming AI, etc., can take away the security of a job. So, with that in mind, that's the argument, is that it would be more stable to do something else. But the way I would look at it is, if you can sustain yourself enough so you have a roof over your head, that you can put food in your belly, then do what makes you happy. Do what gives you peace, because we're not here for a long time. So make the most of it while you're here, is what I say. So why do something that, yeah, it might be a bit more secure, might be a bit more stable, but you can't take anything with you. So do what gives you the most joy in life. That's what I would say. And that's what my argument would be for doing it as full time, because you get to do it all the time then, even though it's hard. But to be honest, I guess maybe it's just my character. I like doing things that are challenging. I like to challenge myself all the time. I like to push myself, because I think that's what it is to be human, is to kind of push yourself, do things that are new, experience new things, and just enjoy life the way you want to enjoy it. So hopefully I don't know if that answers your question, Stan. It might be a bit too philosophical, but that's how I feel. And I've always kind of felt like that. And I'm maybe not the best person to ask about this kind of thing, because I'm 40 now. So for 31 years, I've wanted to do what it is I do. So there you go. I don't know if I can answer it any further than that, I'm afraid. So, yeah. And yes, Bun, thank you very much for the follow and for the comment earlier on as well. That was really helpful. Thank you. And to CC as well. It's really helpful to get these comments. Wouldn't the constant stress take the joy out of it? That's what I'm most struggling with now. When I look at the state of the industry and all, I don't know if I'm ready for that constant worry and struggle. This is the thing. That is a very real problem, obviously. It's a very real problem, is stress, because you don't want to have a stressful life, because then you're not enjoying your life. That's where the argument comes in, of stability. It covers a lot of factors, because it's not just about financial stability, it's mental stability, it's health stability. All these things come into that. And that's a question you have to answer for yourself. And the only person that can answer that is you, because you are the kind of the captain of your ship. Only you know where you are financially, where you are from a mental point of view, and whether or not you feel as you can continue with it and do it as a profession. So again, I come back to it. You follow what is going to make you, put you most at peace and give you the most joy in life. And if that means keeping the art side of it as your hobby, in fact, do you know what? I wouldn't even say do it as a side hustle. I would say do it as a hobby, right? Side hustle, again, adds stress in. It's like myself with my photography. Several times people have said to me, you should sell your photographs. I don't want to sell my photographs, because if I sold my photographs, it would take all the fun out of actually going out with my friends and taking those photographs and actually having a great day in, out in nature, outside, taking photographs and just taking it all in. If I had in the back of my head that I'm going to be selling these and I've got to get a certain shot, that would ruin it for me. So if, Stan, what I would say is, if you are genuinely, if it's a genuine concern to you that the stress is adding, that potential stress is adding anxiety to your life, then yeah, then it's something you might have to look at and say, right, what do I want to do? But again, you can change your path anytime. I'm not sure how old you are, Stan. I imagine you're quite a bit younger than I am, right? But you can change your path at any point. So you can try it. And if you don't like it, you do something else. You have time to switch up what you want to do with life at any point. Okay? So what I would say is, try not to worry about the worry. Enjoy it for what it is at this point. And don't worry about where the industry is going until you're fully invested and you're fully in there. If you're still at college or you're still at university, enjoy that moment. Do try your best not to think about the wider industry yet. Enjoy being at university, okay? Because the industry will be changing constantly. By the time if you start university and then, the industry will be one way. When the time you finish the university, the industry will be a different way. Hell, the industry will be different in 3 months, 6 months, okay? It's constantly evolving, all right? And that's not something that you'll never be able to control that. So it sounds really cringe and really cheesy, but just live in the moment if you can and enjoy what it is you're doing with your art. And if you're enjoying it right now, then just keep at it. But if you don't enjoy it later on in your life, then you stop and you do something else. Polly, I agree, Pat, I call it my hobby. There we go. Yeah, it's your hobby. It's something you enjoy doing. Photography is my hobby. It's still creative, but I consider, everything I do here is my job. Teaching visual effects, teaching 3D, working in visual effects, these are my jobs, but I have other hobbies, other creative outlets, right? Abrax, what do you think about AI? Is it true it will kill the industry? No, it won't. And I point you towards practical effects as the prime example of this. Practical effects went away for a while because everybody relied on CG. But when you look at those films that kind of, issued practical for just CG, they don't hold up anymore today. So yes, AI will overtake for a while. Guaranteed, it's going to overtake for a while. It already is in some industries. It's overtaking in a while. But that's just the excitement for something that's new and fresh and whatever, right? Eventually, when we start to see where its strengths lie, that's when we'll start to see a shift again. For example, we know that certain things in film, practical, nothing can beat it. Right? If you have an actor interacting with a digital character, it's better for them if they have something there to reference. And I don't mean a tennis ball. I mean an actual person in a mocap suit or some kind of reference that they can interact with, right? The same is going to happen with AI, I think, Abrax. That's where it's going to go. Bun, what's it? I feel you have to give it, try and let you chance to follow that route. I didn't go the artist route when I was younger because I was scared and I felt trapped and miserable in the other more standard, stable stuff I tried. Okay, yeah, I agree. 100% Bun Bun. 100%. You got to try it. And if it doesn't work or you fail, who cares? Try something else. Just get back up, keep going, and try something else. It's one of the things I've learned the most over the years is to just keep going. You know, there's you know, it's not about, what is it? What's the Rocky quote? It's not about how hard you get hit. It's about how much you can get hit and keep moving forward. That is pretty much the visual effects industry in a nutshell, or the CG or the creative industry in a nutshell, because you're going to get hit, but you just got to get back up and keep going. Okay. Fantastic advice as always. You're welcome, Stan. You're welcome. All right, folks. So we're going to now jump back in and do a little bit more work. I want to quickly, I don't want to kind of keep everybody. I think we've covered a fair amount of stuff tonight, today even. And I hope I haven't, very inspirational. You know, it's true. I'm not a welder. That's true. I'm a welder, but I'm just sick of it. Always love art and make music. That's why I want to try this now. I just discovered. Then try it. Hey, Brax, do it. Don't think about it. Just do it. Seriously. Tell you what, if you know, again, I'm gonna do a little bit of a plug here for Firestorm, but know that this actually comes from, this is genuinely coming from me. Join a Discord. Doesn't have to be the Firestorm. It would be great if it was, but join a Discord somewhere that inspires you, somewhere that's going to kind of give you the knowledge that you need to kind of try this stuff out. That's what I would say. Just seriously, just start it. Start tonight, start tomorrow, and see how you get on. And if it's something that you really love, then yeah, then to me it's a no-brainer. You know, if you really love it and you have a passion for it, then go for it. Then start it and try it. My pleasure. My pleasure. Okay. He's looking Godzilla-ish. Polio, keep doing it if you can. If you keep doing it, if you join a Discord, you can find like-minded people to do it together and low-key accountability. Exactly. Polly's spot on. And again, that's why I point towards the Firestorm, because the Firestorm community is a fantastic one. It's a great place for people who are new to art to kind of learn without having to worry about judgment or anything like that, because I know that's a huge thing. It's a huge thing for artists, is judgment and criticism, okay? But what you'll find in a Discord or a community like Firestorm, you will get constructive, direct criticism if you want it. You can choose what kind of level of critique you get. People will give you their honest feedback, and it can help you grow as an artist. But you take it as you take it. Honestly, can't even do for the English, yeah, but I will join. Do not be intimidated. Don't be intimidated about that if you can. I can understand it, but trust me, your English is great. Okay, I have not had any issue understanding what you've said, so don't worry about that. Okay, I mean, I'm Scottish. I can barely speak English anyway, and it's my native tongue. So don't worry about that. Okay. Yeah, exactly. You take it as you take it at the pace that's comfortable for you, Abrax. That's what you do. You don't, you know, it's because that's the thing. If you feel pressure to kind of push yourself, then you're not enjoying it. You know, you take it as it comes. So what I'd like to do, I'm going to do a little bit of I'm going to use a couple of brushes here that I think I've got anyway. So I'm going to go into my projects, into my custom brushes, and I think I've got some creature stuff in here. Where is it? What we got? Yeah. So Marcus Winnie is a fantastic person to follow on ArtStation. Crazy good artist. He makes all these amazing brushes for Zbrush. I've got a bunch of them, and I'm going to open up one of them just now and maybe play around with it. if it loads. Oh, it's quite a large brush. I might have also opened up the wrong one. So yeah, here we go. So we've got, this is a VDM brush in Zbrush, and it is essentially a whole bunch of scales. So we've got about 25 different types of scale in here that we can apply to our model. I'm just going to find one that fits the best. And the same thing that I was mentioning about the alpha, you don't just place it down and leave it, okay? Not what I would recommend. I would recommend obviously going in and, oh dang, this is annoying. This is definitely a weird bug in Zbrush at the moment, is it's not great at picking up the changes when you're choosing different IMM brushes. Ah, okay, here's a perfect one. So we've got this scale here. I'm going to use it here. And I'm just going to use it on the front of him, like so. Ooh, that didn't work. Come on, symmetry. There we go. I'm going to turn off my dynamic perspective and let me just... I am aware that we're going a little bit over, folks, so apologies, but we'll get there eventually. There we go. It's not working as much as well as I wanted, so I might just use an individual one. There we go. Okay, I'm going to abandon this because I don't want to kind of take up everyone's time, but let me see if I can find, just looking at a very specific one. Hey, there we go. That's quite cool. So yeah, definitely check out Marcus's work on ArtStation. Marcus Winnie is his name. Goes by MLW3D. Oh, it's broken. Again, the IMM brush is definitely doing something a bit weird. So what we're going to do is we're going to abandon that because, again, I don't want to waste everyone's time. But I think we've managed to cover a fair amount of good stuff this evening. And we've got a Godzilla. He's not great, he's not perfect, but he's okay. So let's do a little bit of paint work on him first. We'll finish off with a little bit of paint work and we'll go from there, folks. Okay, so kind of browny green. So we're going to grab the paintbrush here. I'm going to go into stroke, into spray, and I'm going to take the color down to 0. Actually, you know what? We're going to just maybe make that 0.2. And I'm going to choose 2 different colors here. So I'm going to go for something like that. Maybe make it a bit more. There we go. Get a bit more yellow into it. There we go. And we're going to also then pick something like that. All right, now I'm going to switch this by tapping the V button on the keyboard. I'm going to turn off my occlusion and I'm just going to fill the color here. So we'll do a fill object. Okay, so that's now green, but I can then take this and just darken it down a little bit. And with this spray stroke, I'm going to change the alpha to alpha 8. And I'm now going to start building up. Now I'm going to go into the spray here again and just adjust the color so that it starts to bring through a bit more variation as well. So now there's lots of ways that you can do your poly paint in ZBrush. You can do all sorts of kind of color passes for the heat, etc. Excuse me, sorry folks. Apologies about sniffing there, that's not very polite. And I just want to give myself a couple of base colors here. So I'm going to hit V again. And now that's now going to bring the brown in. And you can see that because I've changed the color flow here, we're getting different variations into the stroke. So it just breaks up the color a little bit more. Okay. So it allows you to build up a very, very quick base for the colors. And what I'm doing here is I'm just following along some of the higher points, the protrusions of him, very lightly. I'm not much of a texture artist, I guess. Well, I am if I spend a lot of time, but I'm not really. I'm just adding a bit of color here. Get a bit of pink going on here for the interior of the mouth. Maybe make it a bit redder. There we go. And this one I'm going to take the color down to 0 so that I just get there. We'll take the tongue and we'll do a fill object on that as well. We can swipe that back up. We'll take the teeth and they're going to be, we're going to go for a bit of a yellow for them, just off yellow. Fill object, do that for both of them. Fill object. What we'll do is we'll zoom in, get our symmetry on, take a darker tone for that, and just grab the top, darken it ever so slightly. Don't have to do much. Again, this is the thing, if you're just kind of blocking out a quick concept, this can sometimes be enough just to break it up. Same goes for the interior of the mouth. Just darken it, start to add a little bit of variation. Can make all the difference. Oh, what's happened to the teeth? That's weird. I did have them set to, dang, there we go. Try that again. There we go. Okay. So the last thing, oh, not last thing, but one thing I do want to do here is I'm going to go into Surface, Noise. I'm going to take the color blend down to 0. And I'm just going to increase the scale a bit here and just break up the curve like so. And that's just going to give me a bit more breakup on the surface for him. And then I'm going to take the green here, fill the object on all the spikes. There we go. Then I'm going to take that same green, actually sorry, there's brown here I think, and we'll just start adding in some variation as well. Well folks, we will be finishing up very shortly in the next 5 to 10 minutes. So if anyone has any further queries or questions, please do ask now. Before we, because I will probably have to disappear fairly quickly. And I'm going to take this dark green now, and I'm just now going to use this to, well actually, do you know what? I'm going to take this brown and I'm going to reduce the RGB intensity really low, and then I'm going to do fill object. That's just going to blend the colors together a bit better, and then I can go in with, if I do the, I can either turn on occlusion like this, right, which helps, or We can turn off occlusion. I'm going to save this in case it crashes. Because what I'm about to do is one of those things that just likes to crash ZBrush. So we'll go into masking. And I'm going to do mask by ambient occlusion. Polypaint is so cool. I've only been working by unwrapping UVs and using something like Substance Painter. Yeah, polypainting is great. It's it's one of those things. It's very simple, right? But it is one of my favorite, it's definitely one of my favorite forms of painting because it's so quick and it's so direct. Okay, so now that I've got that masked, I'm going to invert it. I'm going to take the dark green here, bring it down quite dark. I'm going to turn off view mask, which is going to hide the mask, and then I can use the intensity slider here and fill the object until I'm happy. There we go. There, yeah, he's looking cool. Although I've turned off surface for some reason. Oh, it's because I masked it. My apologies. Right. Something to point out, if let me just go into masking here and clear, is that if you mask an object in ZBrush and then apply surface noise, that surface noise will disappear. I'm just going to make this a bit bigger. You know what? Actually, let's frame it. Noise plug. You will not be able to see the window that's just popped up, and I apologize for that. But hopefully you'll be able to see it now. Yeah, that's not going to work. Okay, my bad, folks. So let's just... There we go. Okay, and there we go. It's not perfect, but it will, I guess it'll do. I guess it will do. I wonder if I've got anything in here that if I've got any tileables or anything that I can use. Let me see. I don't think I do. Let's see. Oh, wait a minute. I got a new pack, a creature pack from Pablander, who I am going to test out now. I haven't. This is completely fresh. I've never even tested any of these. Not tested any of these brushes. Oh, those are cool. Yeah, those are quite cool. Let's see if we change the... Yeah, those are kind of cool. Okay. Yeah. All right, folks. Okay, so enough of me playing around with stuff. Obviously, I've given him a little stand for the head, just a really basic one. But there we go, folks. So I guess the last thing we need to do is pose his head before we finish up. So we will do we're going to go to Z plugin, transpose master, T-pose mesh. What that's going to do is it's going to bring everything down like so. It's going to bring everything down to its lowest, and it's going to combine everything into a single mesh. What I can now do is I can use the masking tools to mask out a certain area like so, and I can soften that mask. Then I'm going to use the transpose master tool There we go. Transpose Master, you can use this or the gizmo. I just prefer using Transpose Master. And I'm now going to, let's see, let's rotate him that way. Make sure we don't break it too much. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to take the mask, I'm going to lower the RGB intensity here, and I'm just going to try to soften more of the spine on the back so that we get a softer transition. So okay, so I think what we'll need to do instead is we're going to have to mask out this separately, like so. And then I'll make a new transpose line. There we go. T-pose to sub-T. And there we go. All right, folks. So once again, we have our Godzilla. Oh, that's not good. Save next. Okay, so as I said, folks, that is going to be us for this evening. We went on a little bit later than normal, but I hope everyone enjoyed the stream. I know I certainly did. There were some really great questions asked this evening, and I hope that everyone got the answer that they were looking for. Please feel free to check Firestorm Studios out on all of the socials below. You can get us on YouTube, Instagram, and over on Twitch. And as well, please do go ahead and join us on Discord if you're interested. Okay, the links will be down below. So yes, I thank you all very much for coming along. My name is Pat, and yeah, I hope to see you all next Monday. Now, I think I will be streaming, if I'm correct, let me just check. I might actually be streaming earlier. Yes, okay. So I'll be changing my time. I'll be streaming at 2 o'clock next week. So 2 in the afternoon, UTC plus 0. So yeah, I hope to see you all there, and we will be starting a new letter. We'll be going on to H. We haven't decided what we're sculpting yet, but that's a future Pat problem. All right, folks, thank you all very much for coming along. Thank you for all the kind words. Take care of yourselves. Enjoy the rest of your week, and I'll see you all again next time. Bye for now.